Hello, in this episode I thought I'd look at the political structure of the Papal States. I'll cover the UN in later videos and the other entities. The Papal States are an absolute monarchy run under the idea of subsidiarity, meaning that people are governed at the most local of levels and only refer to the higher authorities when they can't resolve things at the lowest level. Now, the king here is not the Pope. In the Papal States, the Pope is a separate office. He has no say in church affairs, but is an absolute authority within the law, but cannot change the law. The king can propose changes to the law and can propose new laws, but before they become law, they must pass both the magisterium of the church and the council senate, which is the secular authority of the state. That is the state senate. The king then is also bound to enact the laws approved by both state and magisterium. The idea is that the king is the guardian of the laws, not the controller of the laws. He operates under the law, not as the law. It's a sometimes very fine distinction, but it is important. I tried to cover this in previous videos, but it never seemed to. I couldn't really flesh it out. Here in this fictional setting, I can see how it plays out. In this setting, every current country has its own government. There is an overall state senate or Papal State Senate where representatives of each country go to enact laws that are best talked about at the highest level, like state defense, commerce, or infrastructure, where say new roads or new highways, new spaceports connecting different countries, where one country on its own could not perform this, and where it's best discussed at a superstate level. Now, each state within the Papal States can govern their own way as the people vote, but they cannot supersede the authority of the state, meaning they cannot enact laws that run counter to the state laws. This means that certain states can be, we'll say, have a collective, be a almost communist state, that where property is held in under common ownership. And though there are not many states within the Papal States follow this, there are one or two small states. And that's something I want to explore, that how would that work? People are free to move between states, but once they move to a state, they are subject to those laws. They cannot come in and demand, you must change the law to suit me. People govern themselves as they see fit. This means that they're responsible for that. That if that law lessens someone's personal freedom, that people are free to leave that state. But if you sign up to that state, you are bound to it. And the superstate are not required to make up the shortfall for your stupidity. I'm still kind of playing this idea out, and I want to know what people think of this. It's just an interesting concept. I suppose, would be more of a confederation than a federation. And why I set it up as a monarchy is one can see what happens in the current democracies, where we say there's a 4-year term or 5-year term or 6-year term for a president. And for 1 or 2 years running up to the election, it's just focusing on getting re-elected, on the election, and on politicking, and not actually dealing with the affairs of state. Then there's a honeymoon period where the president learns his or her job, goes about making the same mistakes the previous administration did, and nothing really gets done, or very little gets done. Here, the idea is taking the politics out of the position. The monarch is not a hereditary monarchy. It's pretty much run on how the Pope is elected, that the magisterium votes on the Pope. Now in this setting, the magisterium has no vote on who becomes king. The state does. Each state within the Union or within the Confederation has a vote, or possibly run on on a single vote. You're representative of each state, but it's on by population, so larger populations have a certain say. But I'm still playing out this, and I would appreciate your help. Anyone has suggestions, please leave it in the comments below. The economy is again decided on at the local level, but the state economy is a distributist economy, meaning that it has some aspects of both socialism and capitalism, that there is protection and the family is given primacy, that people are guaranteed the basics of accommodation, food, clothing, and education. The rest is up to themselves. Corporations do not have to accept the state idea of fixed wage, the idea that the highest earner in a company can only earn a certain percentage or a certain factor of what the lowest earner can. This, I believe, is done currently in the Mondragon Corporation in the Basque Country. In this setting, the corporations who sign up to this would get a tax break. And I want to see what that would play out as. Maybe have a few stories set where companies can succeed and thrive with this. Now, I may kind of be biased and things will work out far more successfully than maybe in reality. But why not? But in later works, I aim to look at the pros and cons of this. How rampant, capitalism has its benefits for the individual corporation. How it's able to succeed and thrive because it doesn't have morals. And this is something that is not always wrong, but often is. And it's something that in this setting one can play with. So to recap, the Papal States governance is an absolute monarchy. The Church have no say in appointing the Pope, in appointing the King or Queen. The King or Queen rule for pretty much as the Pope does until either they resign or they die. But their children do not automatically become King or Queen. That is decided on by a public vote. And we'll say someone maybe they can be impeached if they break the laws, if they're blatantly standing against what is in the law, and if they're not living up to the law. But they are under the authority of the law. They can propose changes, but they must be approved by the state senates and the church. The church still operates as the church does, with the Pope, the magisterium. And the laws are and must be Catholic, but one does not have to be Catholic to be in government or even be the king. But one must be bound by the rules of the Catholic Church. And I think that's important. This means that one is free to reject the religious belief, but must become part of the society, as the Papal States are a Catholic society. And in this setting, the monarchs are Catholic anyway. But it's made clear that no one is persecuted or held back for their religious beliefs or race or economic ideas. But if they're willing to become a monarch, and that's the thing, it's willing to become a monarch, they must abide by the rules of the office. It's not, even though it is absolute within the rules have their boundaries, and those boundaries cannot infringe on we'll say a small state. For example, if Malta in this setting decided to become a cooperative a collective state, become communist within the setting, unlikely, and I'm only picking this as an example, the king cannot demand that they become a capitalist or become distributist or become socialist or any other ist. The people at the lowest level, if they are happy to be governed in that way within their state, that's fine. People need to be free to govern themselves. Local people very often have their customs, have their ideas, have their ideals, and an outside culture shouldn't be imposed upon them. And the Papal States allow for the universality of faith, but the diversity of culture. Unified through faith, unified as a state, but the dignity of the human person is maintained by allowing them within the laws of the church, within the laws of the state, to govern themselves and be themselves as they see fit. And that is the Papal States. And that is how it will be governed and how it will act. And I'll probably be biased again, as I'm saying that the Papal States will be an idealized version where things do work. And that is I'm thinking this series may just be, we'll say, three novels within the setting. Maybe more, I don't know. Hopefully I have to get one done first. After which, yes, I will look at the pros and cons. I have an idea of how this because it is a human institution, and this is actually in the Catechism, that trying to set up a utopia is doomed to failure because we are human and we are flawed. Now, in this setting, it will initially work, it'll be fine, it'll be as humans should be governed. In later settings, the same setup will fail because we are flawed and because we are human. And the institutions set up with the best of intentions will be corrupted and bring about its own end. That's another story and for another day. And sorry I might have rambled a bit, but I hope you enjoy this video. I may do some more videos on this, but I suppose I have to, covering the military, looking at more of the economics, the setup, the level of technology, how corporations work within, how separate governments work, what countries are involved, what planets are involved. Now, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, give this a like. If you didn't, well, give it a thumbs down. I'd really like to hear, either way, what you think, and hear your suggestions by leaving a comment below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you all again soon. So, thank you very much, and God bless.